There are versions of me that no longer exist. Not because they were wrong, not because they failed, but because they could not survive what I had to walk through to become who I am now. People see me now and assume continuity. They assume strength is something you are born with. They assume clarity arrives gently. They assume sovereignty is a choice you make one afternoon and then live inside forever. It isn't. What they don't see is what had to be grieved. They don't see the quiet losses, the relational fractures, the emotional amputations, the futures that dissolved without ceremony. They don't see how many times I had to let go of who I was in order to stay honest with who I was becoming. Some losses are obvious. Death, illness, separation. We know how to speak about those. But some losses are invisible. The loss of being mirrored. The loss of shared language. The loss of being understood by the people who once knew you best. The loss of feeling at home in spaces you helped build. No one brings flowers for those. No one sends sympathy cards when your inner world collapses. You're expected to keep functioning, to keep producing, to keep smiling, to keep being spiritual about it. So you do, and you carry it alone. For a long time, I did exactly that. I told myself it was strength. I told myself it was maturity. I told myself it was spiritual discipline. But it was grief without witnesses. It was water with nowhere to go. And eventually, it began to live in my body, in fatigue, in pain, in heaviness, in the strange feeling of always holding something unshed. There is a cost to unexpressed sorrow. There is a cost to staying composed when your heart is reconfiguring itself. There is a cost to being the one who handles things well. What I learned, slowly, imperfectly, without fanfare, is that purification is not about becoming lighter. It's about becoming honest. Water doesn't erase. It moves. It carries memory. It carries truth. It carries what you were never allowed to say. My tears were not weakness. They were information. They were messages from parts of me that had been loyal long after loyalty stopped being reciprocal. They were evidence of love that had nowhere to land. They were proof that something sacred had been lost, and that it mattered. Grief is not an interruption of spiritual life. It is initiation. You don't cross into deeper coherence without passing through loss. You don't become sovereign without watching certain illusions burn. You don't become clear without first being broken open. Every time I tried to bypass that, my life corrected me. Every time I tried to rise above it, my body brought me back. Every time I tried to spiritualize it, my heart insisted on being heard. So I learned to sit with it, not to wallow, to listen, to let the water move, to let the truth surface, to let myself mourn the lives I didn't get to live, the versions of family that never healed, the conversations that never happened, the safety that never returned, the innocence that never came back. Some of those things will never be restored, and pretending otherwise is another form of denial. But something else grew in their place, a different root system, a quieter authority, a steadiness that doesn't depend on approval. a clarity that doesn't need consensus, a devotion to truth that no longer negotiates. Out of grief came flame, not rage, not bitterness, fire, the kind that refines, the kind that burns away performance, the kind that leaves only what is real. And that is where this next phase of my work is coming from. Not from ambition, not from branding, not from trying to be relevant. From what survived, from what remained after loss had done its work, from what could no longer pretend. There were periods in my life when staying true meant speaking to almost no one about what I was actually living through. Not because I had nothing to say, because there was no one who could hear it without reshaping it into something safer. So I learned what it feels like to be surrounded by people and still be alone in your inner world. I learned what it feels like to be loved and unseen at the same time. That is a particular kind of loneliness. There were months, and in some cases years, when I carried everything quietly. When I sat with my questions, my grief, my confusion, my heartbreak, and my doubt without witnesses. When I had no one I could call and say, "This is what's really happening inside me," without being misunderstood, minimized, or advised out of my own truth. During that time, I examined myself relentlessly. Every motive, every reaction, every memory, every boundary, every decision. I turned myself inside out to make sure I was not the one distorting things, to make sure I wasn't being cruel or selfish or rigid or unforgiving, to make sure I wasn't missing something that, if I could just see it, would make everything resolve. I asked myself over and over, is this my fault? Am I being unfair? Am I asking too much? Am I the problem? I did that work honestly, not to prove I was right, to make sure I was clean. And what I found again and again was that integrity sometimes costs you closeness, that clarity can feel like abandonment to people who benefited from your confusion, that boundaries can look like rejection to people who were used to unlimited access. I learned that you can love people deeply and still be unable to live inside the stories they need you to tell. I learned that sometimes staying aligned means being labeled distant, changed, or difficult, when in truth, you have simply stopped betraying yourself. I lost certain forms of intimacy because I would no longer trade my nervous system for approval. I stopped explaining myself to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. I stopped shrinking my perceptions to keep the peace. That brought peace, and it brought quiet. Both had to be learned. There were nights when that quiet felt unbearable, when I wondered if staying true was worth the isolation it seemed to require, when I missed the ease of belonging more than I cared to admit, when I grieved the simplicity of relationships that no longer fit. No one talks about that part of sovereignty. They talk about empowerment. They talk about freedom. They talk about standing in your truth. They don't talk about sitting alone in your living room at night, feeling the weight of everything you chose not to compromise. They don't talk about how many times you'll doubt yourself before you trust yourself. They don't talk about the tenderness it takes to keep your heart open when it would be easier to close it. What I know now is this: sovereignty is not lonely because no one loves you. It's lonely because fewer people can meet you where you now stand. It's lonely because your frequency has changed, and not everyone can follow. It's lonely because you are no longer willing to disappear inside relationships just to feel connected. And still, I would choose it again. Because on the other side of that quiet, something real began to grow. Self-trust, inner steadiness, discernment. A relationship with myself that does not collapse under pressure. I no longer need consensus to know what is true. I no longer need permission to honor my body, my spirit, and my knowing. I no longer negotiate my integrity for belonging. And that is what this space is built from. Not perfection, not certainty, not superiority, but lived devotion to truth. If you're here, it's because you recognize this terrain. You've walked parts of it yourself. You've questioned yourself. You've doubted yourself. You've tried to stay open without losing yourself. You're not weak for that. You're brave. And you're not meant to walk it alone. If something in this spoke to you, you can go deeper with the full written piece on Substack at tendingtheinbetween.substack.com.